Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you're eyeing a career in law in India, you're probably staring down this massive, totally intimidating maze of acronyms, syllabus variations, and just intense competition. But honestly, don't sweat it. Today, we're mapping out your ultimate cheat sheet for conquering these exams. We've distilled the absolute best, most up-to-date strategies for you. So let's jump right in and find your path through the maze. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First, the path to law school. Second, the major entrance exams. Third, decoding CLAT and AILET. Fourth, your essential prep toolkit. And finally, number 5, strategies for exam success. All right, let's dive into section 1, the path to law school. It's time to choose your entry point. Think of your legal journey like a fork in the road, right? You essentially have 2 main entry points into the profession here in India. You can kick off your quest straight out of Class 12 with a 5-year integrated course, like a BA LLB or a BBA LLB. This is basically a direct pipeline for high school grads. Or if you've already got a bachelor's degree in your pocket, whether that's engineering, commerce, arts, whatever, you can pivot into a 3-year LLB program. Now, both of these roads, super competitive. You've got to conquer some pretty rigorous entrance exams to unlock the gates to the top institutions. Now, here's the thing. There is no single universal master key for all Indian law schools. You have to actively match your exam to your target university, which means choosing your battles wisely. If you're aiming for the prestigious national law universities, or NLUs, CLAT is your absolute non-negotiable gateway. But check out AILET on this list. That's the sole entry point for NLU Delhi, because they operate entirely on their own. Eyeing top private schools like Jindal Global Law School, you'll need the LSAT India. Symbiosis has its own test called SLAT. And if you're looking to stay in state in Maharashtra, you're taking the MHCET. Knowing exactly where you want to go dictates exactly which test you prep for. Moving on to section 2, the major entrance exams. Let's talk about the big bosses of the law exam world. To really grasp the sheer scale of this competition, just look at the stakes for CLAT. This exam is the master key to over 24 national law universities. We're talking about an arena of up to 92,000 students battling it out for just over 3,000 seats. To put that into perspective, that's like a sold-out sports stadium where everyone is fighting for just a handful of tickets. It's an incredibly tight funnel, and if you're aiming for the top 5 NLUs, like those highly coveted campuses in Bangalore or Hyderabad, that bottleneck gets literally fierce. Every single mark, honestly even a fraction of a mark, can shift your rank by hundreds of spots. Now, if you thought CLAT was tough, the math gets even crazier with AILET. This exam acts as the exclusive single gateway to just 110 BA LLB seats at NLU Delhi. Remember, NLU Delhi ignores CLAT scores completely. They want to test you entirely on their own terms. With roughly 17,000 candidates vying for those 110 specific spots, AILET is arguably one of the most fiercely guarded gates in the entire country. All right, Section 3, Decoding CLAT and AILET. We really need to understand what these tests are actually throwing at you. Let's break down the CLAT. Honestly, you can put away the flashcards right now because rote memorization is not going to save you here. Every single one of its 120 questions is tied to a dense 450 to 500-word reading passage. And hey, if you have math anxiety, breathe a massive sigh of relief. Reasoning, comprehension, and current affairs make up an overwhelming 90% of this exam. That quantitative technique section is just a tiny 10% slice based entirely on 10th grade arithmetic. Even the legal reasoning section doesn't require prior legal knowledge. They literally embed the specific legal rules right there in the passage. Your job is just to find those rules and apply them logically. It's a test of reading stamina and critical analysis. Definitely not trivia. AILET's terrain, on the other hand, requires a totally different mindset. For the BA LLB paper, it skips dedicated legal and math sections entirely. Instead, it throws nearly half of its weight into a massive 70-question logical reasoning section. You've got 120 minutes for the whole paper, meaning your critical reasoning, your ability to quickly solve complex puzzles, and your mastery of syllogisms have to be absolutely top tier to survive this. The sheer intensity of logic tested here is really what sets it apart from the heavy reading comprehension focus of CLAT. Now here is a massive, game-changing rule you absolutely must be aware of when jumping between these exams. Negative marking. CLAT and AILET harshly punish random guessing. They dock you 0.25 marks for every single incorrect answer. A few wild guesses, yeah, they can completely sink your rank. But private university exams like LSAT India and SLAT, they have 0 negative marking. This completely dictates your exam day strategy. For CLAT and AILET,
You only ever guess if you can confidently eliminate at least two options. But for LSAT India and SLAT, never ever leave a single bubble blank on that answer sheet. Okay, Section 4, your essential prep toolkit. Let's look at the actual tools you'll need for success.
Forget hoarding a bunch of heavy legal textbooks. Your true weapons are your daily habits. Because these exams are so incredibly reading intensive, daily reading of newspapers like The Hindu, especially those editorial pages, is just absolutely vital. Why? Well, because it builds the exact reading speed, vocabulary, and analytical mindset you're going to need for those dense exam passages. You'll want Wren and Martin to bulletproof your grammar basics, Lucens for a static GK foundation, and sites like LiveLaw or Bar or Bench to train your brain to quickly process the highly complex, specific language used in actual legal judgments. I want you to notice the profound emphasis on practice here, because these exams ultimately test your speed and accuracy under extreme pressure. Practicing with timed, full-length mock tests is absolutely non-negotiable. You can read all the prep books in the world, you can know every single grammar rule by heart, but if you haven't trained your brain to manage the exhausting stamina of answering 120 dense questions in exactly 120 minutes, you simply won't succeed on exam day. The mock test is literally where theory meets reality. So, with all these varying tools, different targets, and overlapping skills, you might be asking yourself how to practically juggle the whole shebang. Which exam do you actually focus on first to avoid completely burning out? That brings us to Section 5, Strategies for Exam Success. Let's map out your runway. The most efficient, time-tested strategy here is to build your foundational base by preparing for CLAT first. Think of CLAT as your primary building block. The core skills for CLAT, reading comprehension, logical reasoning, and current affairs, overlap heavily with all the other exams. Once your CLAT foundation is rock solid, you can then layer in specific practice for the other tests in the final weeks. For instance, you can drill intense logic puzzles specifically for AILET and LSAT, or you can start training for raw speed for the shorter, faster SLAT format. Build the base first, then specialize. When it comes to your timeline, an ideal start is early in Class 11, which gives you a good 18 to 24 months to slowly, organically build those crucial reading habits and general knowledge. But hey, if you're starting later, a focused 8 to 10-month sprint is a realistic minimum, provided you stay incredibly consistent. However, the most crucial takeaway for any timeline is the final 3 months. You must aggressively pivot. In those last 90 days, 60 to 70% of your study time should shift entirely away from learning new content and dive directly into taking mock tests and ruthlessly analyzing your errors. That error analysis, that's where your score actually jumps. And when the actual exam day finally arrives, stick to this playbook. First, read passages completely. Skimming will get you in major trouble because questions often hinge on subtle nuances buried deep in the text. Second, secure quick marks by tackling your strongest sections first. This builds early momentum and confidence. Third, strictly manage your time in blocks. For CLAT, cap yourself at roughly 24 minutes per section, so you never leave easy questions unanswered at the end just because you ran out of time. And finally, if you're balancing all of this with your high school board exams, just drop into maintenance mode during board season. Committing just 45 minutes a day to current affairs keeps your brain engaged without totally overwhelming your schedule. So, we've covered the different pathways, decoded the major exams, and laid out your specific timeline and strategy. The legal world is actively waiting for minds that can reason swiftly, accurately, and under immense pressure. You have the map right here in this explainer. So what is going to be your very first strategic move today? Are you going to open up a newspaper editorial, or are you going to book your very first mock test? The maze is yours to master. Trying to wrap your head around the legal world a little bit better? Consider this your official invitation. Subscribe to Titiksha Legal. It is a space designed specifically for you to learn, question, and explore.